Hey everybody, welcome into the Beehive. I'm your host, TheBee LLC, and this is where we stack precious metals like it's pollen and nectar. Our pollen is silver and our nectar is gold, preserving our wealth as honey of old. And today we are going to be joined by Everard with ARK S.G.O, silver gold osmium. Ian, welcome in.
Hey there, how you doing, long lived?
Good, good. How are you doing?
I think I'm okay. This crazy world.
Yeah, indeed, right?
Just when you think you got it all worked out, something dramatic happens.
Seems like it here lately. That's been the case. Yeah, definitely large, big things happening, global shifts, and a changing world, and that's true for a statement today like that, I guess. You know, lines seem to be redrawn and being redrawn, and big changes, and that's what one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was the gold. Let's start with the dollar reserve destruction, since we're on a big global topic. Yeah, I mean, there's been lots of pundits coming out here of this last week, I've noticed. Plus, we talked about it a little last time we talked. And, you know, it's not just crazy nuts like me, but seems to be some other people think that the global dollar reserve standard that we've all been accustomed to might not be as stable as it once was.
Yeah, I think it could be coming to a rather rapid end. The dollar's function as a reserve, I think it will carry on as currency for the foreseeable.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to get a split. I used to presume that the world reserve currency would move from one to another nation would take over. But I'm thinking more and more, we're just going to have a world currency and it will be used less and less as a reserve. And for us in America, that's not good news because we lose that privilege of just exporting currency and importing real stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. Like that's going to be a huge shift that I think is going to have a lot of implications to a lot of people. And yeah, I mean, we're just set up kind of on that on-time arrival in all our stores from shipments overseas, global trade basically, which seems to be being shaken quite heavily right now, right?
Yeah, I saw figures of imports down 60 to 65%. So that should be having an effect pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think that, I mean, it seems like everything that you buy now says, you know, made in China. And
yeah,
if
70% of goods in Walmart and probably about 70% of goods on Amazon are of Chinese origin, or a good part of them are of Chinese origin.
Yep. Yeah, that's it's going to be a pretty big hit to us. I mean, we've got our meds coming through there. We've got much of our everyday, you know, items and goods, and then pretty much everything from Walmart that, you know, seems to all be from China. So I think it's that could, I mean, I don't know. It sounds like you know, that's the other problem is it's a steadily changing tariff rate. I mean, that jumps around. We don't know where that's going to land, but you know, if just the talk of 124 or whatever it was percent is
145.
145%. There you go. That's enough to halt the whole trading system from China for a while, isn't it? Till things resettle and you know, I mean, what do you do?
Yeah, no, I mean, even a medium-sized or a large business couldn't take the risk of importing, having goods at customs, having paid for them, and then finding out they got to pay for them again and a bit more, or a lot more.
Right.
It's not like you have the option to send it back. Unlike those two Boeings, China sent back two Boeing jumbo jets flew them back again. And I think
Wow.
Boeing have lost potentially 179 orders for 179 planes.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it would just, you would think you would just stop kind of everything until you figured something out more sure. And that's been what we've relied upon for what, my lifetime anyway, seems like.
Yeah, we still haven't got a definitive answer in the precious metals world. People have very strong opinions. It looks 100% that gold is excluded, it's tariff-free. But there's room for interpretation whether that extends to silver, platinum, and palladium. Now, obviously,
Okay.
platinum and palladium aren't a major part of the bullion industry, but silver is. So we still got one major wholesaler are not prepared to import from Canada, even though the Royal Canadian Mint are stating they think silver is tariff-free. Once it's into customs, and if there is a tariff on it, the importer then has a choice to send it back and in effect have to pay the shipping both ways and let clients down. Because there's no way the industry will sustain a 25% gross tax.
Right. Yeah.
So it is disrupting the bullion industry.
Even right now, a little bit.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's only that it's come at a time, a historic low in retail trade, but it's not shown through dramatically. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I wonder, I mean, that right now, I mean, we're just kind of talking about Royal Canadian. Well, I guess they have plenty of mining that we probably buy the raw bullion through them too. But Mexico as well is is another huge importer of silver, right? And so they're, I don't know about their Libertas, but I mean, the big, large bullion shipments we would get to make all of our silver rounds and our, all of that might be halted as if the bullion's being halted, you would think.
Yeah, it's just a whole world of uncertainty.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, let's talk about then. So that's the dollar reserve kind of fallen down, trade we don't know where we're at, but Basel III moved gold into a tier 1 asset. Asset.
Yeah, and supposedly the only other tier 1 asset is US debt.
And that seems to be sliding down the scale like we're talking about right now. So it may recover strong, but what do you think, on this, all this uncertainty, is that going to make it stronger? Or does that make the dollar milkshake theory a little bit more fragile?
Maybe we've sort of bypassed that. I think if things had stayed sort of pretty normal without any too dramatic changes, we would have seen more capital flee to America.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I mean, this might even shake up that whole milkshake theory itself. Yeah,
I mean, if you look at the major world currencies, I mean, I'm always keeping half an eye on the British pound and the euro. The euro's gained about 14% in just a couple of months.
Wow.
I say gained. You need 13% more dollars to buy the same amount of euros now.
Yeah. Well, speaking of things buying other things, what do you think about the gold-silver ratio? And
well, I actually called it spot on yesterday when it got to 105. I had a client who's a financial advisor, and he stores some of his insurance. When he has to reinsure himself, he stores some of that in precious metals. And he called me up determined to buy gold. And I told him I think gold, that ratio was peaking and silver was a better buy. And literally it turned on a pin. Gold has gone down 1% and silver went up 2%. So that's a dramatic move in the ratio, but we've got a long runway ahead of us.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I just watched it. Here, I'll bring up this little video from Silver Dragons. He's a big YouTuber on silver and precious metals, and he stopped into a dealer here, and he went ahead and he traded his 1 ounce of gold for silver.
Yeah.
And so, they kind of talked about it too there, and they're going to document as well, whether this was a good trade or not, or or is he going to get more gold out of the deal, or end up with less wealth overall. We'll see, but I think it's a strong bet. I don't have enough gold myself that I'm going to do it. I'm already way heavy silver, so I'm going to keep what gold I have. But yeah, I mean, I think it's probably a pretty good move right now,
huh? I think so. Yeah. Mike Maloney did an excellent show, and he showed that the ratio has only been this far out of whack for a few weeks, ever since we came off the monetary 15-to-1 ratio.
Wow. Cool. Yeah, I was just watching. Mike Maloney had a good little video with North Star bad charts, I think is what they're called. And, they were talking about it's common for this silver not to take off kind of at least till the end, and then just kind of outperform. And I would imagine this time that would just be like, I think everything is going to kind of happen the same, except even more extreme. So, it's probably going to come a little late, but still rip more doors off than normal too on its way up. So
I think so. Yeah. No, I mean, with the historic suppression that's been going on for decades, that's actually affected supply destruction. It's deterred people going out exploring for silver and opening up silver mines.
Right.
It's destroyed. And the whole negativity, the whole lack of respect, I guess, lack of interest, lack of respect, lack of financing, the whole mining world has caused a lack of investment, not only just in exploration, but also in existing mines. And it's just not going to be able to turn on quickly. 15 years is not uncommon from finding a deposit to actually turning it into a producing mine.
Right. Yeah, and that's what, and to keep it suppressed, that that's what they keep it suppressed, and that stops that information to get out there to get more mines started. So you're going to see a further lag there when the demand comes back in. So just makes it a little.
And if it happens at a time of financial chaos, no one is going to be investing for a 15-year timescale, and if you have no idea what's going to happen next week.
Right. Yeah, that's it seems like everybody is investing like for the short nowadays. Everyone's expecting a lot of gains in a little amount of time, and whereas the game it's not really a game, but what I'm in the precious metals this is a long-term thing. It just so happens that I think we're starting to see the major shaking that's going to start to occur in the world if something like the global reserve currency comes to a stop. I mean, this is the remnants of that taking place, I think. And so it makes the precious metals, whether you'd call it an investment or sitting on it or whatever, much more relevant. Like, now is the time that things could get extreme, where this is supposed to be a real long time investment. However, when you come into these last era of the hyperinflation of an event, you get that extreme moves in the market, right? So, I feel like that's what we're starting to come into.
Yeah, and lots of dynamics all at once, isn't it? It's the first time the whole world has been on a fiat inflationary currency.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to kind of point that out too. So all of the currencies after World War II, and correct me if I get this wrong, but all those currencies were tied to the dollar. And then that dollar at a fixed rate of whatever it was, $33, $42, whatever it was tied to gold. And
it was not fully tied. It was redeemable for foreign nations could come and bring surplus dollars and redeem them at that rate.
Right. And that's what we're
$45 for 1 ounce. But that did cost us close to 14,000 tons of gold, because in 1934, by the time the gold that was handed in had been collected, and all the gold coins from the banks, all of these, well, not obviously this one, but all of these $20 and all of these Indian heads, by the time these had been collected in.
Pre-33s, yep.
Yeah, interesting. They didn't even refine them. They just melted them down and called them coin bars. Just turned them into bars at that. Was it 92% gold, copper, and a bit of silver, I think, is the American recipe. So, yeah, 1934, the US had around 22, I think I'm correct, 22,000 tons. When Nixon suspended the exchangeability of gold, that was August the 15th, 1971? I know it was August the 15th. We were supposed to have around 8,800 tons.
Yeah.
So we burnt through over 13,000 tons of gold, taking our currency back that we'd created out of nowhere.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So that's a heck of a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
So basically, but what that enabled us to do as the reserve currency was just to export paper to start with, and then more recently, just export digits of dollars and import real things. So when our current politicians say that we've been taken advantage of with the trade deficit, it's a complete opposite.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have, I don't want to use it, but it's a strong word, but we have raped the world of its resources and its effort.
Yes. Yeah.
And become rich and grown fat and lazy.
Yes. Yes. That's how I view it as well, is that once you disconnect from that reality of gold backing, you can then print with unlimited ability.
And you can direct it even more effectively into fewer hands.
Right.
Even more effectively.
It's even more diabolical. It gets worse and worse, and that diabolical just only hits an up curve at a certain point.
Yeah. I mean, at least when the $half and the quarters and the dimes and the dollars were silver, the individual could slowly over a lifetime collect a reasonable amount of silver. Now, what's the point of collecting a reasonable amount of paper dollars?
Right.
It's just not. And the means, although it's changed somewhat, and you could say it's been democratized how people can participate in the stock market now. You can buy a tiny fraction of a share for a brokerage, and supposedly free brokerage, isn't it? Was it Citadel and Robinhood and all of those different E-Trade, all those different platforms, Schwab. Generally, the average person doesn't really make huge gains or any gains in the stock market. I think I'm correct in saying the top 10% of the population own 90% of the stock market.
Wow, really?
So although you've got over 40% participation, it's lots of little people having fairly small stakes, and they usually always end up as the bag holders when the crash does come. The big money is out and the retail money has come in. I mean, it's rinse and repeat. That was the pattern that led up to the 30s depression. Goldman Sachs were notorious. They packaged up loads of worthless stocks and sold them to retail purchasers, because they'd had over a 9-year period, if you bought stocks, they only went up. And I don't know if you remember, long lived about 2 years ago, there was somebody on TikTok, I've forgotten which program showed it, and they asked them what their investment strategy was. And they said, well, they watched stocks. When they saw one going up, they bought it. And then when it had gone up, they sold it. and they were making so much money they gave up their job.
Wow.
So it's just the idea that you can always buy something and it will always go up is just, well, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's you can't create wealth out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Real
That's
wealth, you have to grow it, mine it, refine it, you know.
Right. See, and that's the trick that we've been playing on the rest of the world, right? Is they're actually giving us raw goods.
They're doing the growing and the mining and the making and the refining and the machining and the
and we've got the magic hat that gives them all dollars. Now, since somehow amazingly we all got onto this false reality where we broke the connection with the gold, and we're all living in this false reality now for what's it been, 60, how many years has it been since, roughly, whatever it is, but whatever.
Was it 1942 Bretton Woods?
So 90, 100 and some years we've been this
83,
way.
80 years would take you to 2022. So 83 years.
Okay, yeah. So
that's several generations, isn't it?
Yeah, where we've been used to just kind of printing dollars out of thin air and getting goods.
I'm going to pause you there because I always used to say it's never out of thin air because it's stealing a piece of all the existing dollars.
Right.
Good, so if it was out of thin air, it would be bad, but not quite as bad.
Quite as bad. Yeah, you're right. It only gains that value from the existing.
From stealing a piece of all the existing dollars.
Right. And that's a good point. And another thing I don't think that we notice, or that I should say more properly, like you're pointing out, is that, you know, we all talk about, and at least you hear all the public talk about, oh, the price is going up, the price is going up. And that's where we get our false logic from, because it's not the price that's going up of all the goods. It's that the dollar value is losing its value, purchasing power.
Well, the very definition of inflation is incorrect now.
Right.
You know, I mean, it was Mineko 64 and Zhang would always reiterate that the inflation is the abnormal increase in the money supply.
Yep.
So, i.e., increasing the money supply faster than the population and genuine GDP. And we've been doing that. Not only have we been abnormally increasing the money supply way above GDP, we've been lying about GDP, because the GDP, if it's based on debt, borrowed money that you have to pay back, is it GDP?
Right.
So if you looked at it genuinely, we've probably been in severe depression since 2008 or longer, and it's just been a fake expansionary system.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's how we end up. That's how I'm seeing the things that we're seeing. And that's why when you look back at Rome, when it fell, you saw so many weird things starting to pop up in the culture there, and you're seeing it pop up in our culture now. And
for some, it appeared the wealthiest period. There was extreme concentration of wealth. And I guess part of that was theft of the silver out of the coins. And I think we could be heading to a very similar situation. The Roman soldiers stopped being soldiers when they realized they were getting paid in lead and not silver. You know, so at what point can the US government not effectively pay its soldiers and police and, you know, all of its officials that are enforcing and imposing, you know, the law of the land and taxation? At what point have they not got the means to actually pay the government workers? I mean, you know, enough to make it worth their while turning up for work.
Right. And I mean, not to make this an even more depressing talk, but our money today is not the same as the CBDC, which they're trying to introduce. And if we stay
close. It's very close, and most people are just fully conditioned to tap their card or
That's the scariest part.
Even in Whole Foods now, you can use your palm print to pay.
And I even hear people saying, "Oh, we're already there. We're already there." Well,
Not
we're
quite.
already there that we use the electronic payment, but we're not already there in that it can be programmed and you can be shut off at a whim and cash is no good anymore. And I mean, the
nuances are endless on the control and the direction of what you can spend, how you can earn, what interest or what negative interest can all be done instantaneously.
Right. So that's what I really wish that people would catch some of that, because I hear that so much, even in our community, like, oh, we're already there. Well, we're already there in the sense that they've gotten us pretty well tricked into using this new slavery system. But, it's going to be a whole new level.
Yeah. The trap is definitely set and most people are in it. And it might not have snapped shut yet. But if you haven't got something independent outside of it, you're trapped.
Exactly. Yeah. CBDC,
and it's a hard concept, and I don't think people really have woken up to how extreme governments can be.
Exactly. Everybody's sleeping. Yeah.
I mean, if you can be here on a green card and just get deported without ever committing a criminal offense, why would the government stop with a CBDC of if you didn't have the right political views or
right? See, and I think that's why we're seeing so much of this huge shakeup, is because these types of things are going to start to come into effect, and it's like a psychological shakeup game where this is just the new norm, and people are just like, oh, it's just because of these big new things happening, and it's like I don't know, that's frightening, but it's a very high plausibility that that's what's going on.
Yeah, and the CBDC is not just full control, is it? That the power that has will be abused.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
For sure. It's hard enough for the average American. You probably couldn't afford to go hire a lawyer and fight a case, could you?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think you get a more feeling the closer we get to this of them almost more helpless, because you see corruption in law enforcement, you see corruption, in the government, you see especially in the government, but it kind of creates this, oh, we're doomed. But actually what's happening, why we are getting so much, one of the reasons we're getting so much corruption, and it's so obvious and it's so bad, is because the currency is getting so close to the end of its life. And like you're saying, people are struggling to keep their law enforcement enforced.
Yeah.
And so it has to be even more corrupt to keep that enforcement. And this cycle will only accelerate. But the good part about that is if people would wake up and see that means that we're really close to that value going away and that corruption possibly leaving the system. But we're at this point where they've got this grid in place where I feel like they are going to try to roll into this new money and trick people into thinking this is the only way or the best way, when obviously real money would be the better way.
But I'm convinced that in the moment it's announced, it actually will be the right thing to do. Now, hear me out, but because the alternative will be a collapse of society, and dense urban areas, you'll just have rioting, and people will just take what they need.
Yes.
So you would literally get a breakdown society when the current system ceases to work and the banks stop trusting each other, and there's a cascading collapse, which will happen in minutes or hours. And the alternative is to bring in a new CBDC with not a fresh start, but a limited number of dollars in it. What would you vote for? Would you vote for, well, let's let millions of people die in the dense urban areas fighting it out over food and water? Or switch on this new system and people can go back to work and carry on being the good little hamsters and their hamster wheels?
Right. Well, I of course would not. I mean, I would look at it in my more logical view, which would not meaning this will work by any means. You're right. I fully agree with you. But in my mind, like if I had control of everything, I would just kill the existing system with all the fiat and say, look, we are where we are. Everybody has what they have. We're starting over, but with real money, and just circulate that money.
But then the problem is a good half of the population hasn't got anything.
Right. But once it starts circulating, it can start going up instead of down.
Only for the people who've actually got a goods or service that they can provide that somebody wants.
Well, there's definitely an interim period where like you have to start producing something, right?
Yeah.
But like if the evil heart, like my point would be, if the evil heartedness of this plan was to suddenly flee, it wouldn't be that hard to re-get things going again. But it's that they're trying to lock it down and have.
I don't know. I side with Mises when he says there's two outcomes from an inflationary system: collapse or catastrophic collapse. The collapse comes if you voluntarily stop creating any more currency, so you stop debasing, and that will lead to an inevitable collapse. Or you carry on debasing and you have a catastrophic collapse. Either are catastrophic, because if you take the collapse, it's going to be catastrophic for most people.
Right, and I agree and then I agree that that's even coming, but even the cultures that have collapsed still.
But the only humane way to do that would be to prepare, would be pretty on a biblical scale, 7 years of storing food.
Right.
So you've got a reserve until things do settle down into the new system.
Right. I mean, yeah,
we haven't got that. We've got 3 days of food reserves in the cities.
Right. Yeah.
Not 7 years.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. You'd have to set it up like with your, all of the existing system would have to crash. You'd have to go back to a system where you try, like let's just take, for example, BRICS.
Yeah.
If they just drop the dollar in the debts and just start trading with gold amongst their nation, look, they have gold to back goods, and they can get immediate food, immediate goods just through gold right on the day one.
Except that every BRICS country is in an expansionary, debasing fiat system.
Yeah, but we've dropped the fiats. Just like Russia got kicked out of BRICS. Didn't matter whether they wanted to be in it or not, they were out of it.
Out of SWIFT.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and they're still alive as a country.
I mean, it's debatable how long they can carry on. I mean, you get extreme views. I mean, their public viewpoint is that they're absolutely fine. They've never been better. I think the reality is the whole society is breaking down.
Could be. I found out this the other day that the ruble is the best performing fiat of the year so far.
Yeah, but it's not freely traded.
Well, my point being is, if them being BRICS just start trade, like they're out of the SWIFT, Russia's already out of the SWIFT, so they're trading by other means, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my point. If they just start using gold as their trading means, which they're already discussing, I think they haven't done it because they got us barking down their back saying, if you come out with a gold standard, we're going to be on top of you. So I think
it's only the orange guy has been saying that, isn't it?
Well, yeah. But I mean, that's kind of the threat from us, right? Is that, oh, we're the world's currency. Don't take that away from us. And
whilst wanting to have balanced trade, which you can't have balanced trade if you're the world reserve currency. Yeah,
right. So I think these countries are looking at that and saying, look, that's why they're forming the BRICS, because they know this is not going to last. This is not going to work. They could kick us out just like they did Russia. We need to come up. And so just say that they suddenly let the fiat system collapse. Fiat system gone all around the world. We're back to reality. Now all you have to do is start trading amongst yourself with gold, and it's a restart of I mean, you'd have to go, of course you're going to have trading of, so I mean, all the goods, but you just drop the fiat system where it is. You might do ratios of debt to gold. I mean, you know, you can figure that in, Because you see, it's actually fictional anyway. It's just air anyway. It's just,
well, it is fictional, but it's perceived as real, and it's perceived as purchasing power in the future.
But that perception for Russia went away immediately one day.
Well, they have got an awful lot of rupees because they've been selling oil to India, and they have got rupees that nobody wants, and Russia. So.
I mean, because it could, if the crash happened, you could be back to reality. Now, yes, it's going to be rough, but before the fiat system, we survived on a silver and gold and copper system, a tri-bimetal system. In fact, for thousands of years, we've been running off of silver standard. Yeah. So, I mean, we should be able to go back to that. In fact, some say that that's they call Mises, right? We have to go back to our original. That's where we get our price from. You can't.
It's whether there is a route for a nation. I don't think there is. I think we are so far down the theoretical wealth. We're so far down. People retire at 60 and might need their pension for 30 or 40 years, plus healthcare, plus help.
Right.
And all of that wealth they think they've stored up, as soon as they realize it's not there, they cease spending, and there's a fire sale of everything isn't absolutely necessary, and you end up in a deflationary death spiral.
Yes, and that's what I see coming for the fiat system. But that doesn't make gold and silver become invaluable. Like
gold and silver do the opposite, and a deflationary death spiral. They're the only thing that does have purchasing power.
Right, because all of that fake fiat gas, or whatever you want to think of it as, has to find when people's reality starts to come to that. That was all fictional anyway. These promissory notes are all proven to be lies, because there's nothing but lies coming out of our government. So when all that fake vapor gas comes back into reality, it ends up in real things, and the best real things are the ones.
Some of it, the bulk of it, has to disappear.
But what doesn't has to come back into real valuable things, and the most valuable of those real things is stuff that doesn't quickly decay, like silver and gold.
I sort of depart on that point, because a lot of the fictional wealth just has to disappear. It doesn't get a chance to convert to anything at a meaningful amount. Do you see? So at the moment, silver is $34 an ounce. Okay, so say we're now, the system is crashing, and next week silver's $340. So for everybody that waited to next week, they only now get 1 ounce of silver for their $340, whereas everybody who transferred now gets 10 ounces.
Right.
And then in 2 weeks' time, there is no silver for sale.
Right.
So
I agree.
So now you've got people who've got millions or hundreds of millions or maybe even billions of dollars like that have become worthless. So that wealth disappears. It's not like,
No, I agree. I agree with that.
It's not like conservation of energy. If the wealth is fictional, it's fictional.
That's exactly, yes.
Yeah.
But when that fiction but we have a lot of value in that false reality. In people's minds, there's a lot of value there.
Yep.
When they come to the realization that, that's just fictional, and that all disappears, and I'm in agreement with you, what value is in real existence is more valuable, because it's reality, because it is real. And that's where silver and gold comes in. But so that's kind of my point, is like, to me, the system can crash because we would just get back more to reality. I mean, that's why I started my channel, was to try to get people to get stuff in their hands, so that when this happens, it's not as bad as what we're talking about being a possibility of happening. But but I just look, people say to me all the time, like, oh, you don't want gold or silver to go up because think of the world. I know I don't want it to go up, but guess what, guys? It is happening. It will happen.
Oh, yeah.
It's happening.
Whether you want it to or not. Yeah.
Right. And so it's just better if you're into it ahead of time. It's not that I want this stuff. I don't want what's coming, trust me, but it's coming is the thing. That's the part where people are not catching on.
So I'm saying it's going to be delayed. That the introduction of CBDC, a multi-dollar system. So day one, enough dollars transferred and are in the new CBDC for 95% of the country to function as it did last week. Wages are paid. You can pump gas, buy food.
Right.
Everything can carry on. Because the financial elites and the banks might have so much power and wealth and are making so much, they're not going to just give it up and walk away.
I agree to that.
Okay. And in that moment, the choice of having riots, no food, no gas, no water, no services, no police, no army, that's Mad Max, isn't it?
Yeah. So that
and you add in the mix 400, 500 million devices that us Americans love, or most of us love. You add that into the mix. I don't think that's ever happened in human history, has it? That amount of destructive power. Right.
But let me take it to a more sinister level, okay?
Right.
What if, like you say, if we just carry on at this slow, steady debasement, that would be my best case. I mean, I can keep stacking and I can try to get more people into it. But what if they see that, look, there's a lot of people yakking about this online and they don't like it. And they say, we've got enough power because they've got enough power as is, let's pretend. And they say, let's shock the system a little bit and get people to realize that they're screwed. But if we introduce this new CBDC, all will carry on.
It will for a while.
Right, but we know the end of that too. Like that's the whole goal for me.
You can push it back 5, 10, maybe 15 years.
Could, but I like if they shake it now and if they bring in the CBDC now, I think people are kind of already to that point where like you're saying, they've got nowhere. They're gonna accept the CBDC
because they'll see on day one there'll be no difference. They may even get a stimulus payment.
Right, exactly.
So day one they'll be the same or better off.
Yes, but in a year's time,
they'll become more and more of a slave. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And slowly to a point where you realize you have absolutely no control over anything.
And meanwhile, the leading financiers and the bankers and central banks will start debasing the new digital dollar.
Yes.
And the people at the top of the feeding chain will get those new dollars first. They'll get the benefit of them, the Cantillon effect, and it will repeat again.
Well, what if, see, that's where I'm not so sure that it's that easy of a, that might not even be so bad, but I just feel like it's kind of even more diabolical than that. Like that once they lock us out and have us locked in, they have, like you say, they have all they have enough wealth amongst themselves to control kind of the Mockingbird scenario, where they live a lavish life and they keep us plebs locked up in the pleb life.
Yeah.
So to me, because if you think about it, like you're saying, no one else really has any real wealth. They don't have silver. They don't have gold. They're probably owe on what they have of their physical goods, whether it's a car, $100,000 worth of debt or something,
Yeah.
And so, I just think that they could literally lock us into that. And then it's a whole different world at that point. Like, There's no more freedom. I mean, no, they're sure for the first year they're going to tout, how great it is, but
Yeah.
it, there's no, there will be a separate, it will be or maybe, tell me if I'm too extreme. To me, that's the enslavement of the world right there, to an extreme like that.
Well, we're there. I mean, for most of the population are a slave to the system anyway, because they believe in it.
Yeah.
So they are a slave to the system. You're told the American system and most of the Western system, but particularly the American system, is you take out debt to get educated, you take out debt to buy a house, you take out debt to buy a car, and then you invest in that debt that's packaged up with everybody else's debt. Then you buy investments in your own debt. Seriously.
No, I know.
And it's worked, and because it's worked for decades, people presume. But I think people are realizing, I mean, a lot of people now feel they've got no chance of owning a home.
Right.
So if you start doing that to a population, I think that's a big part of the reason people are gambling in crypto.
Right.
Because they think they could get their 1,000-fold, put their $10 into this new altcoin, take $100,000 out.
They don't care about they care so much about being in the system and getting that advantage that they don't care that they're enslaving humanity forever. They don't even think about, does this not a thought that goes through their minds? Or, to me, you're locking your wealth up in a system that someone else has keys to. Even if it comes down to just getting on the internet, they can lock you out of that.
Yeah.
So,
of course you can.
Right. So, I mean, I just don't see how people can be so greedily minded that they would, just be okay with that. But I guess that's the case, huh?
On a little side note, did you see Klaus Schwab has been kicked off for embezzling billions of dollars out of the World Economic Forum?
Oh, I didn't know for that.
Yeah. Yeah, he and his family have had their hands in the till, helping themselves. Well,
really?
Yeah.
So he got ousted by their own people.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
So I don't know who they're going to put up instead. He was only brought in because the original head was a full-on Nazi. So at the last minute, they thought, people are going to put two and two together and research where this guy came from. And so they picked Klaus because he was the protege of the person they were going to pick as the head of the WEF.
Wow. Oh, wow. No, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
But I think I'm right. I think we're not going to, there's no easy road to sound money as a nation. In fact, I don't think there's any road as a nation, not even a rocky road. As individuals, it's pretty easy. If certain, though, that's a bit. I think there's a large amount of the population it could have been really easy to take out financial insurance, i.e.,
yes,
turning your fear into a store of value.
Right.
And people have ignored it, and I think lots of people have had a warning. I mean, I spoke to a local financial advisor company here just over a year ago, and they were not interested in helping their clients get a little bit of financial insurance.
Yeah. Do you think that they're aware that that's a problem and doing it?
I think a lot of it is just outright ignorance.
It's got
and greed, and it might not be obvious that it's greed, but when you look at the American system, you look at how the stock market has rewarded people who've been able to invest in it. I mean, the last long period, I think it was from the 60s through to like 1981, 1982, where it was flat. But ever since the early 80s, with the slight deviation in 2008 and an even smaller one in 2020, it's just been you just keep you appear to keep growing your wealth.
Right.
And I think there's a multitude of things now that are going to bring that to an end, because a lot of the companies, maybe not all of them, but probably a large majority of the companies in the stock markets rely on cheap goods, products, chemicals, metals from China. Well, do we know China is actually going to make nice and turn that supply back on again?
Yeah. Right.
Oh, we have a question from Space Miner there. Particular currency you favor for digital exchange?
Well, not sure exactly what you're pointing at there. What kind of currency?
I'm not. So there is a sort of preoccupation. A lot of proponents of crypto say, well, you can take it anywhere and you can spend it anywhere and you can transfer it around the world. It's like, most people don't need ever to do that, do they? Most people need to buy goods and services in their immediate locality.
Right.
So I think it's overrated, that individual desire or perceived need to be able to, transfer around the world. And I think the risk now is all currencies are fake.
Yes.
And they're all going to fall. I thought the dollar would be last. It might be first now.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, apart from the lira and the ruble in the 90s had its 90% devaluation. But it does look like interest rates are a reflection. The higher the interest rate, the less desirable the currency is, because so you have to pay people more to hold it. So our rates are going up. Looks like Switzerland are going to go negative again. Yeah, capital is still fleeing into Switzerland.
So you're seeing it almost kind of like, or again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you're almost seeing it like we're going from a nation that has the global hegemon in that we can export those dollars for real goods, but we're just, instead of like that whole system crumbling and some other big reset with the leader coming in, you're just seeing us fall alongside the rest of the nations somewhat and becoming we start a battle betwing inflating our currencies. I mean, and we just all slowly keep
deflating, debasing.
Yeah.
Debasing, you mean, to get a competitive.
Yes.
But that only works if you are an exporter. If you're an importer, you do not want your currency weakening.
Right.
We're an importer.
Right.
And that can't be changed rapidly unless we stop using a lot of the things we import. But a lot of the things we import create a lot of the wealth in the country. Someone might import something made in China for $10, sell it here for $40, and they're packaging it, they're marketing it, and they got a website, and they got an insurance company, and they got a building, they got employees. So that's my income generated after the fact of it being imported, more than the value of the goods cost. I mean, was it a pair of Nike trainers, $10 out the factory gate in China, or $200 here? So who gets $190? An American company. The American company is on a stock market, and the stock market is owned by pensions and funds, and even states, aren't they? States have stakes, teachers' funds, firefighters' funds, and so a lot of that is based on being able to import stuff at a 10th or a 20th of its resale price here. Well, that's going away now.
And so how do you see us? So, so you think we're going to try that's what I'm saying. Do you see us just sliding, becoming like the other countries, and we all try to start
I don't know.
equally exporting these stuff?
It's really dangerous, isn't it? Because the size of the military we got, if our government gets into a malign state of craziness or crazierness, and they decide to go out and take what they think we deserve.
Yeah.
I mean, that could go horribly wrong, couldn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
But otherwise, we've got to get used to. I mean, heck, this laptop here is made in China. My iPhone made in China. Yep. I bet this flipping Sharpie pen is made in China. You know.
Yeah, we got a laptop that just went down. In fact, we got to go get a new laptop, and we should probably hurry out and do that because
I went and bought a spare one 2 weeks ago, and this one's only 4 weeks, 5 weeks old. And I thought I'm buying it. It's never going to get cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't. I mean, as a society, we're not ready for this rapid change.
Yeah, that's kind of wonder why I was talking about what if that makes me think that they're willing to hit it with a sledgehammer or give it a good shake and try to
it's more than a sledgehammer.
Grab their control.
It's more than a sledgehammer. If imports are down 65%, that's whole ports are just going to shut on the East Coast and West Coast.
Yeah.
That's whole shipping fleets will now be idle, container. You name it. The knock-on effect. It's a rate of change that really catches most people out.
Right.
Now, have we played into China's hands? Because we've always been at war with China, or China's always been at war with us. We just never talk about it or look at it. Their whole playbook has been to destroy the Western way of life, or let us destroy it ourselves with a bit of help.
Yeah, I mean that's
if China's got over 90% of the precursor chemicals for making drugs, what are we going to make our drugs from that we do make here? What are we going to make them from?
Right.
We're going to build the chemical plant for refining and separating and however that's all done.
Right.
No, we're not. But because the people who've got the capital, they're not going to risk it. They're not going to build out factories.
Well, so, I wish we could just shake everybody awake and we could go back to reality. That'd be great with me, but I guess that's just something I need to remove from my mind.
I think individually, yes, and in small communities, yes. But you can't make that transition as a nation. Yeah. It's taken well over 80 years. I mean, even from when checking accounts were first introduced, that's when we first started, in effect, going digital, where ledgers were kept of perceived wealth. So we've had well over 100 years journey to get here. There's not a reverse. There is no reverse. This train has no reverse.
Well, can I ask you, and this is, I guess, more of
and it doesn't have any brakes. Doesn't really have any brakes, and we're running out of track in front of us. I mean,
No, yeah, I see that. So here's a philosophical question. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but do you think that they knew and understood and did it on purpose, or did they just do it and were scared and they're like, oh no, here we go. What's going to happen when they took us off of that gold standard? Do you think they knew we're locking humanity down here in a way that has never been done before? We're going to have control like never before? Or was it, oh man, we're running out of stuff, we got to get off of this, so they just flipped the switch and stepped back and like, oh, let's see what happens here?
Well, it's been, the consequences have been known. We got no excuse as a species. Go right back to hundreds of years, where China first tried a paper currency, and then that was seen and brought to Europe, and you got that statement by J.P. Morgan. I think it was J.P. Morgan. Give me the ability to create the currency. I care not who writes the laws.
Yep.
They realized that the bankers that have the power to create the currency and then charge interest on it,
yeah,
have more power and the whole legal system.
Right. So they knew at that
So
point.
they knew it would give them power. Now, if you can't really, I don't think you can detach from the spiritual. Satan is the enemy, and Satan wants to destroy God's creation. And sometimes, as hard as it is to believe how we behave as humans, God's highest creation on this earth is humans.
Yeah.
So it's Satan's desire to destroy us. He doesn't care whether he uses an elephant or a donkey to do it.
Yeah.
So now people in their greed and delusion, do they actually fully understand the consequences, or do they get to a point where they haven't got a conscience and they don't care? I think it could be both.
Yeah.
It could be a measure of both. It could be either. I don't think Trump and his billionaire club totally comprehend that their absolute greed and desire for more and more is destructive.
Yeah.
And it is destructive because you get to a point where a husband and a wife have got to work 2 jobs each to buy a house.
Oh, yeah.
Society's not working, is it? It's not working.
No.
You know, and it's been a long time in Britain.
And
people's objective would spend basically the whole of their life working to own their own home. So when they retired, they'd own their own home. Literally the whole. So all of that effort, or all of what they get to keep of their effort, may get them a home. So, you know, and there's that's where a drastic point was what happened around 1970 when productivity carried on going up and the wages flatlined. So the worker did not get a share of the ever increasing productivity.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that comment there. Satan is not weak. I mean, Jesus describes him as a prowling lion. He's not weak.
Well, one day we're going to look on him and laugh, it says. But,
yeah, but he's called the adversary as well.
Sure. He knows humans for all of
exactly.
History.
Yeah,
he knows our weaknesses very well. So
yeah.
I'm not looking for a fight, but I do need to, you know, we're at an hour now, so I better try to wrap it up and lighten it up a little bit.
Silver Boy Blues has got a comment there about Nixon. I mean, he was told you're fighting a war. You've got all of these social plans, all of this social benefits were being brought in the 60s. He was told at the current burn rate we'll run out of gold and then we're finished. So
Well, because it's obviously true that, you know, you start debasing your money and you know, if you don't have it to back it, that's why you back it with gold in the first place. So
I like Space Miner's comment now. I've often just wanted to build a cabin. It's it's like, because that's the trap, isn't it? That's the American trap. You know, even if you manage to buy a home, well, then you refinance. So you're forever just paying interest. You never actually pay the principal off. And even if you manage to get it free and clear, you're not free and clear because you've got property taxes.
Yeah.
And if you don't pay your property taxes,
now I will say, and I agree, Ian. But luckily we got into our house back when it was just under $100,000. It's now books at like $450,000. We've never refinanced, and we are, you know, fairly over halfway on our, you know, on that. So I think we are on. So it's better for me at the time that it happened. I got in for about the same price as it was to rent. So I think I got lucky and got in at a good time. So I think it is good to own if you get in at a good time.
Yeah.
But now might not be that time. I would wait for a pullback. I personally think that the housing market will probably fall back a little bit. But I'm not sure about that. What do you think, Ian?
I think in dollar terms, it will probably stay. I mean, there'll be huge regional variations, but I think overall in dollar terms, it will keep rising. But in terms of silver or gold, it will keep falling.
Keep falling. Yep, there you go. That's a good point. Very good point. Yeah. In fact, I was watching a show and they did that. They showed a big pile of gold that took like 7 years ago to buy a house, and a little tiny bit of cash, and said, well, either of these would have bought a house. And then they fast forwarded today, and the stack of cash was unbelievable that they put up there, and they took half the gold away and said, so
yeah, I mean, a little tube like that with 20 gold coins in, that's what, $65,000 now.
Yeah.
So a tube and a half would buy your house at the at the price that you bought it for. But it's gone.
Yep. Okay. Well, yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about so you like silver right now, and you got any good deals on that?
Yeah, we've got 2025 maples.
Beautiful.
$2.87 premium.
There's no tariff hit there yet, guys. Get it well.
Yeah, I mean, these. I'm not quite sure where my wholesaler got them. I think he brought them off another wholesaler who needed to sell them in a hurry. That's why they're at such a low premium. And we got everything else, but I think that maple is the absolute deal. It's the lowest premium we've seen in 5 years.
Nice. Cool. And I have some good news. Well, we have some good and exciting news here. Hopefully, I'm going to be doing a show here in about a week or so, hopefully. And we've got some exciting news. And stay tuned for that. It's more related to the osmium world. And osmium has been performing quite vigorously of late. It's jumped up. What is it, like $2,000 a gram now or something? A little over.
I mean, that's partly because a major part of its pricing is in the euro and the Swiss franc, which obviously so the dollar's fallen over 10% against that combination.
Wow. Now, isn't that like that's a change that hasn't happened in a while, huh?
No, because I mean, osmium is the rarest form of the rarest precious metal, but it's not priced in dollars.
Right. And
all the other metals are priced in dollars.
That is very interesting. And for the first time in how long, the euro is now, or what was it? The euro that you said is now up to the dollar?
Yeah, we're about $1.15 to buy a euro. We were at 1-to-1 not that long ago.
Okay, so now we've got the euro strengthening against the dollar, and that's been the other way around for quite some time, right?
Yeah, and interestingly, the euro has lost out as to being held as a reserve to gold. More gold is held by central banks in dollar terms than euros.
In euros, wow.
And that's just increasing. I mean, that was before this. I mean, what we've had, that was before about at least a 20% rise in gold. That was when gold was around 2,500, 2,600.
And like they say, you don't want to consider it them buying gold. You consider it them selling cash. And that's been what the central banks of late have even been buying gold. So selling cash.
I mean, and if you think about it, they're creating their currency out of stealing from all the existing currency. It has to be paid back with interest. And then they're taking that currency and buying gold. So they're shorting their own currency every time they buy gold.
Yep.
Because they're borrowing currency into existence. So that it's no different to borrowing a stock, selling it, buying something else.
Yeah.
Hoping that what you buy is going to go up faster than the currency you owe back.
Yep. All right, Ian. Well, awesome. Appreciate you coming on here and talking with us on this.
I nearly forgot.
Depressing subject.
Talking trade wars, we have some pandas have come in.
Oh, nice. Let me pull you up here. Pandas, are those the 1 ounce or is that?
These are the 1 ounce.
These really? Those are the ones you want there, huh?
2013s.
2013s.
And 2015s.
I bet that there will be some people that probably want those. Those are the ones you want, the 1 ouncers. Now they're like a gram light or something nowadays, I think.
They're 30 grams, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All
So
right.
it might not be politically correct having Chinese coins, but I like them.
Right. Cool. No, yep. Nice. Those are the ones you want if you're gonna.
We have had a nice batch of these Indian heads come in as well.
Oh, cool.
So a client inherited these, and he just traded them in for. He traded these for silver maples, actually.
Nice move. Nice move. Very cool. Are we expecting pandas to be a thin
I think
commodity?
so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a good point, Spaceman.
I don't think they're going to let us have any more silver.
Yeah, you know, and that's what maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that next week or something. But the Shanghai is could be a little bit moving up in the world as far as
I think so. As a more transparent market.
Yep. I agree. Isn't that something?
It is.
Sad but true.
I thought we had a bit more runway ahead of us.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's better to be prepared than late, right? That's the whole thing. So
fail to prepare, and you prepare to fail.
Nice. All right, guys. Well, thank you, Ian. We'll be back with another one. Thank everybody out there in the chat for participating, and we will be back soon with more. So stay tuned. And we got, like I say, we got some exciting news coming with Osmium. So stay tuned for that, and we will catch you all on the next one. Thanks, guys.